Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are having a fabulous day already. And if you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I'm a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, dancer, jazzerciser, runner. I'm also a grad school student studying for my master's in clinical mental health counseling. I own an online activewear boutique, and guys, if you're digging this shirt, it's actually from my men's line. It's amazing. It's very soft. Women shop the men's line too. That's how good it is. And I also work part-time as the program director for my local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is NAMI, and my local affiliate is NAMI Citrus. So that's a little bit about me. I started Wellness Wednesday in order to share tips and tricks about getting through my anxiety and depression journey that has been pretty much lifelong. There's a reason why peer support groups work so well, and that's because peer wisdom works. So when we get together and we share information as far as what works for us, or what we know works for other people, then those of us that haven't tried those things can sometimes really benefit. And that's why sharing of information is so stinking important. If you follow me on a regular basis, I'm going to give you a word of warning today. I was up a little bit earlier than usual, and I usually, if I have coffee, I only have 1 cup. Today I'm on cup number 2, so I might be a little extra today. Just thought I'd let you know. But if you follow me on a regular basis, then you know that Wellness Wednesday is often based around mindset. Sometimes we talk about food. Sometimes we talk about exercise. Most of the time we're talking about mindset things. I forgot to say, if you're here, let me know you're here. If you don't see this till afterwards, ask a question, drop a comment, whatever. We do want to keep it positive here. So let's make sure we always try to do that, because there's enough about mental health that can be negative. We really don't need to add to it if we can avoid it, right? So if you follow me regularly, or if you saw last week's video, I hope you enjoyed it. It was about shadow work. I hope you learned some things, maybe found a couple of surprises, things you didn't know there. I know that I did. Today we're going to talk about breathing and why we shouldn't take that for granted. So we're going to do a simple start, but before I do that, let me just sideline for just a minute. I have an odd riddle today, and also a reminder. First of all, the reminder, I got stung by something the other day, and it actually looks a lot better than it did. I don't know what it was. The culprit did not introduce itself. Never saw it, just felt it. But it got pretty red pretty far out for a couple of days. Believe it or not, it actually looks much better than it does now. But the point here is that this is your weekly. I didn't have any physical symptoms, thank goodness. But the point here is this is your annual reminder to check your Benadryl, antihistamine, allergy med supplies, because ours were like 2 years expired. So all of that had to be tossed. And I did find 2 Claritin blister packs, because when this started spreading, the red started spreading way beyond where the actual original sting or bite was. I got worried. It was a little bit welted. It was a little bit raised up, and I was like, this doesn't look good. So that's when I went digging for the Benadryl, found out it was 2 years expired. I found 2 Claritin blister packs that were only like 2 months expired, and went ahead and took one of those. Of course, I'm not recommending taking expired medication at all, but this was like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I wasn't in an emergency situation, but I was very concerned about the fact that this looked like it was spreading in the redness. So again, this is your annual reminder. Check all the allergy things, make sure they're within date. And if they're not, get rid of them in an appropriate fashion and replace them. So that is that reminder. My weird riddle of the day is last night at some point in time, our power went out. And we have 3 clocks in the house that don't automatically sync time like our phones and our watches do. One is the alarm clock next to the bed that we don't actually use for an alarm. It's just a projection clock that puts the time on the ceiling for us. It's truly the ultimate in lazy indulgence right there. You don't even have to move. You just open your eyes. Oh, that's what time it is. Okay, go back to sleep. Not this morning, however. We also, of course, have the microwave clock and the stove clock that typically cut off and flash after the power has gone out. However, this morning we time warped. At some point the power did go out last night, but all 3 of those clocks, all 3 of them, Only one of them is flashing, and all three of them are 35 minutes ahead this morning. So if you can figure that one out or come up with an explanation, I would love to know it. Anyway, those are my two little rabbit holes for today. That's your riddle of the day, is why we actually moved 35 minutes ahead last night after the power outage. When I woke up this morning, when my alarm went off at 5, my phone alarm, I looked at the ceiling at the projection clock and it said 5:35, and I was like, when did I miss my alarm? Yeah, it was one of those mornings. So in any case, those are my side trails for today. Let's talk about breathing, and let's try a simple exercise first. Put your hand on your chest. If you're driving and you're listening to me driving, do not do this. Save it for later. If you're at home, whatever, whether you're laying down, standing up, sitting up, whatever. I'm very frequently standing. Put one hand on your chest and the other one on your stomach, and take a deep breath in. And tell me, and then let it out. Tell me which moved, your chest or your stomach. Because if your chest moved, then congratulations, you're like 90% of human beings who are taking shallow, stressy little sips of air all day long. If it was your stomach, then you're already a step ahead of me, because that's the kind of breathing that is a game changer, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, why does breathing matter? Well, for starters, it's something that we tend to take advantage of, or not advantage of, we tend to take for granted. We take breathing for granted because air seems plentiful. Our bodies naturally breathe, but they don't always naturally breathe correctly. Good morning, Steve. How are you today? I saw your little face bubble. So that's why I chose the title I did. Well, the title, the caption when I went live was Your Brain on Breath. And I kind of was copying off the old Your Brain on Drugs thing with the fried eggs and the pan. Good morning, Miss Stacy. But basically we take breathing for granted. It's not a background application. It's a direct line to our nervous system. So we need to learn how to be more intentional about it and do it correctly more often than we don't do it correctly, right? Obviously, we're all still alive, so the shallow breathing serves its purpose. But when we slow our breathing and we do it more mindfully, we're telling our brain that we're safe. And this has to do with the nervous system, which I'll get into in just a hot second. So breathing matters because, again, it's not a background app. It's something that is a direct line to our nervous system. It has a direct impact on how we physically feel, on our stress response, on how our brain is functioning. And so it's extremely important. While it does kind of run in the background, it doesn't mean it's running correctly. May need some bugs worked out, right? So when we slow our breathing, we do it more mindfully, we're telling our brain that we are safe. Changing the way we breathe, changing our breath pattern, activates our parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're like, okay, Donna, biology was a long time ago, or maybe it was like last year and you just didn't pay attention. I get it. Biology was not always my forte either. So, even in college. So, which reminds me of another story I could tell, but I gotta stay on track here. So changing our breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest system. That's how it's commonly referred to as. It means the parasympathetic nervous system operates as, I am safe, I don't need to worry, I don't need to fight or fly or freak out, I'm good. And it slows everything down. Whereas the sympathetic nervous system, which is what the parasympathetic nervous system dials back on, okay, so when we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, it dials back the sympathetic nervous system response, which is your fight, flight, or freeze. And sometimes now I see fight, flight, or freak out. So that's 4. I'm pretty sure you could insert several things here, but essentially our sympathetic nervous system is the fight, flight, freeze, or freak out response, right? And the parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest part of the system. So they're both parts, they're two sides of our nervous system. And when we change our breath, we slow it down, we're more mindful about it, activates the rest and digest side of the system and slows down and dials back on the fight or flight response. So for my fellow nerds, like that fact wasn't nerdy enough for my fellow nerds. And the vagus nerve is something that's been coming up a lot for me. So watch for more information on this because it just seems to keep coming up. So I have some extreme curiosity about the vagus nerve and what I don't already know about it. So stay tuned for another episode on the vagus nerve. But deep breathing boosts the vagus nerve, which is, and the vagus nerve regulates, boosts the vagus nerve's ability to regulate stress and inflammation. So this is known as tone. A high vagal tone means calm, clear thinking. A low vagal tone means you're snappy, you're reacting to people, and you might have brain fog. So again, activating the parasympathetic nervous system also boosts the vagus nerve. So it calms us down, it helps us regulate stress better, helps us regulate inflammation better, and it helps clear it helps with calm, clear thinking, and keeps us from having brain fog and snappy reactions and things like that. So here's the key. Deep exhales, like, you know, those aggravated sighs you do. Deep exhales actually activate the vagus nerve. And that's those long sighs we do when we're annoyed, when we're tired, when we're whatever. I stand at my desk a lot and I'll be like, but actually that's helping me. We kind of do that automatically, but it actually helps us. We're subconsciously regulating our nervous system. Cool, huh? So, especially when Eric was out of the hospital, but not back to work yet, I would hear him in the living room go, and I'd be like, babe, what's wrong? So when we hear those big sighs, we automatically assume something's wrong. And it very may well be, but it also may be very subconscious. It's our body's way of regulating the nervous system, either because we're tired, because we're annoyed, whatever the case may be. So the exhale is actually our hidden nervous system superpower. It's kind of cool, right? We already knew we had lots of superpowers, but this exhale is one of them. And most of us are basically chest breathing all day long, which is like a pant for a dog. You know what I mean? We're breathing, we're surviving, we're getting along. We may be cooling off a little bit, but we're not deactivating that sympathetic nervous system. So the ideal breathing is a slow diaphragmatic breath that's coming from the belly, not from the chest. And that's where, if you did this exercise with me at the beginning, hand on the heart or chest, hand on the stomach, and you breathed in, if your chest was the one expanding, then you're shallow breathing. And if your tummy was the one that expanded when you breathed in, that's your diaphragmatic belly breathing. So that exhale is the magic. It lowers the heart rate. It reduces the stress hormones, and it calms the brain's emotional center. So second nerd fact, and then we'll move on and stop being nerds. Breath work can change brainwave patterns. And it moves you out of a busy brain, which is considered the beta phase, and into calm, creative, and focused brain, which is the alpha or theta stage. Basically, breathing correctly can put your brain into that focused flow where everything fires just right. And that's really where we want to be all the time, right? Especially when we're at work or we're trying to get things done. I know when I'm in school, I want that focused flow where I'm not distracted by every little thing, because I'm not in fight or flight response. I'm in that parasympathetic nervous flow. Okay. So, how do we do it? Diaphragmatic breathing. And this is something I help lead a NAMI class called Peer to Peer. And diaphragmatic breathing is one of the things that we one of the stress relief techniques that we teach in that class. So Healthline, there's a couple different ways to do diaphragmatic breathing. There's a couple things that are not called diaphragmatic breathing, but they still kind of fall into that category. And Healthline also recommends diaphragmatic breathing for COPD and asthma. So if you suffer from either one of those, this is definitely something worth paying attention to. But they also recommend, of course, talking with a respiratory therapist or your doctor first before you engage in new breathing exercises that you haven't done before. That's your call. I have warned you. Basically, diaphragmatic breathing, there's a couple of very, very popular breathing things. And I'm going to tell you, they're teaching this to kids in counseling. They're teaching this to kids at Boys and Girls Club. My grandson was like, 4-7-8 breathing. I know what that is. I learned about it in Boys and Girls Club. And I was like, that is fantastic. Because let me just tell you that as a child who is extremely overactive like my grandson is, he's basically his grandmother's child. Let me just tell you. The joke is that my daughter got the child that my mother wished on me because my daughter was very laid back as a kid. But this boy is like, he's 150% Nana, okay? In any case, so there's a couple different breathing techniques that are so often taught that you can literally go on YouTube and search videos for either one of these and you will find them all day long, which is awesome. Find the one that works for you. Find the one that makes sense to you. Make sure it follows some basic principles and run with it, okay, if you need a visual. So box breathing is also known as 4-4-4-4 breathing, okay? Basically what you're going to do when you're doing it is you're going to picture a box. You're going to breathe in, up the side of the box, hold at the corner, breathe out, hold through the top of the box, exhale through the other side of the box, and hold through the bottom of the box. So 4-4-4-4. You can kind of count in your head seconds, but you can also picture going up the side of a box, over the side of the box, down and around. And that's what's known as box breathing. So again, it's inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold again for 4 seconds. And you visualize a box for this step. This kind of helps you direct the breath, if that makes sense. It's fabulous for anxiety. It's fabulous for improving focus. And it's actually a favored breath work technique by the Navy SEALs. By the Navy SEALs, who also use progressive muscle relaxation when they go to bed at night, which is something else that NAMI teaches in their free peer-to-peer class. So these are not just random fly-by-night, somebody pulled them out of their ear techniques. These are tried and true techniques that have been used for a long time by a large group of people across a lot of different types of jobs, occupations, hobbies, whatever. So box breathing is fabulous. Again, you can find videos all day long if you need a visual. I'm also going to drop a couple links in the comments. The 4-7-8 breathing, which is what, which when you compare it to like what NAMI teaches in the peer-to-peer classes, is the quintessential diaphragmatic breathing. Same idea. You're going to inhale for 4 seconds. You're going to hold for 7 seconds. I know that seems like a long time. And exhale for 8 seconds. The truth, and I've talked about this type of breathing before. The truth of the matter is sometimes it's that exhale that's the hardest because we let go too fast. And I have a solution for that in just a minute. But this 4-7-8 breathing slows your heart rate fast and is perfect for right before a stressful meeting or right before bedtime. If 4-7-8 is too long and you can't do that when you're just getting started, there's a couple of solutions. One is that you can cut that in half. As long as the ratio is the same, you're still accomplishing the purpose. And that cut in half ratio would be inhale for 2 seconds, hold for 3.5 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. You can kind of slowly count in your head, and you'll be close, or you can keep your eyes open and set a timer. I prefer to do my breath work with my eyes closed. It helps me kind of relax, visualize whatever I need to visualize. The other option is Pilates breathing. If you're struggling to hold or to hold that exhale for 8 seconds on the 4-7-8 breathing, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Pilates breathing in just a minute that should help that. And also there's something else that Stanford calls cyclic breathing, or the physiological sigh. And that's the sigh I mentioned a few minutes ago, where we just sometimes take that big deep sigh, and it's our nervous system attempting to self-regulate, which is fabulous. Our nervous systems know what to do, but sometimes they just get a little bit extra, kind of like I am today. So sometimes we need to slow them down, where you need to tell which one we want to work, because sometimes it's the other one we don't want working right then. So the physiological sigh, or cyclic breathing, is 2 quick inhales and 1 slow exhale. And there's a recent study from Stanford University that says it's proven to reduce stress immediately. And out of a lot of the different recommended breathing techniques, this one seems to be one of the most successful, very easy to do. So it's 2 quick inhales. It's actually like a longer inhale followed by a shorter inhale. and then one slow exhale. So it might sound like, and that is proven to reduce stress immediately, to have immediate impacts on your sympathetic nervous system and immediate assistance in activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So, Pilates exhale. This is actually where I first started learning about breathing, was yoga and Pilates work. And there's a couple different reasons why it works, because with yoga, a lot of times what's promoted is breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. It does two things. It helps your body heat up, and it also helps to regulate your breathing. So you could go to 15 different yoga classes, and the breathing is going to be different in every single one of them. Some of them are going to tell you to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Some of them are going to tell you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, and to only breathe out through the mouth if you start getting too warm. Because I can tell you from personal experience, when you're constantly breathing in through the nose and out through the nose while doing yoga, you will heat up internally quickly. So a lot of times I have to exhale through the mouth to cool myself down. So there is some truth to that. So yoga is where I first became aware of breathing and became more mindful about it. And that's also where I first learned about that diaphragmatic breathing, where you want to breathe in, belly breath in yoga, they usually call it. They usually don't call it diaphragmatic breathing. They call it belly breath. And then they have another name for the breath that's done through the nose, or the breath that you feel in the back of your throat, Ujjayi breathing. I'm not even going to get into all that today, because I'm not a certified yoga instructor and I don't know all the nuances of that. I just know what I know from personal experience. So the Pilates breathing is a little bit different. Pilates teaches a very controlled exhale. And if you remember, I was telling you with the 4-7-8 breathing that if you struggle to hold or to hold that exhale for that full 8 seconds, Pilates breathing may help with that. So there's two kinds of Pilates breathing that I've learned from Pilates, which has helped me tremendously in terms of activating my abdominal muscles when I'm running, when I'm working with weights, to help protect my lower back. So it's kind of like, it can also sometimes be referred to as corset breathing, where you're not just talking about your belly, you're talking about your ribs, everything here, not here, everything here is expanding when you breathe in, and then you make usually an audible noise when you exhale. So if it's a long exhale, it might sound like, and you're doing it through pursed lips. It's a very focused exhale. Or if you're doing something called the 100, which is a core exercise in Pilates, it might sound like this. So that's what's called, also known as staccato breathing. So two different types of exhales. But when you purse your lips and you focus that exhale, it controls it a little bit better. And that actually might help you make that 8-second exhale in the 4-7-8 breathing. So it might be something like, I don't know if you can see my belly expanding. And sometimes I use the shorter breaths if I'm struggling with weightlifting, to help make sure that my core stays engaged. Different schools of thought on that now too, whether or not you want your core constantly engaged. But for me, it helps to protect my lower back when I have my core engaged in certain positions with weights, like a bent over row. So Pilates teaches a controlled exhale, as I said, and I just lost my lighting. I did not have a backup battery today for this, so I guess we're going to be in the dark for a hot minute. Let me see if I can, going to be in the dark for the last couple minutes of this, and that's okay. Hang on a second. We fix this a little bit. I didn't check my battery for my ring light this morning. Bad girl. So I was too sidetracked by the clocks, I'm telling you. All right, so anyway, inhale through your nose, let your ribs expand, your ribs and your belly area, and then exhale through pursed lips like you're blowing out candles, is essentially what the Pilates breathing boils down to. And the key here is to gently pull your belly button toward your spine, and that's where you're activating your core muscles, protect your lower back, protect things like that. So you're gently pulling your belly button toward your spine, not sucking it in, not drawing it. You're not sucking it in, but you're drawing it in. So as you exhale, you can kind of picture that breath actually going out of your belly, and that really helps to tighten up the core. So it helps with core control. It helps with back support. It also helps ease tension in your shoulders and helps to prevent injury. So it's not just a breathing technique for your brain or for your nervous system. It also helps. This particular one also helps tremendously with core, with protecting your spine, all of that. So since I'm out of light and I'm actually running on time today, here's my call to action to you. I'm going to drop some guides in the comments. I challenge you to pick one of these breathing techniques and practice it at least once a day for the next week until we talk again next Wednesday. And tell me, you can shoot me a message if you're not comfortable commenting it. But if you're choosing a breathing technique, drop it in the comments so I know what you're doing, or shoot me a message. And then let me know how you feel about it, whether it's the box breathing, the diaphragmatic breathing, the Pilates breathing while you're working out, whatever it is, the psychological sigh, which is the cyclic breathing. I'm going to drop some guides, and you pick one and let me know what it is. And then I want you to check in with me next Wednesday or maybe next Tuesday right before. You can do it in the comments while I'm live. You can send me a message. Let me know how that worked for you. Okay. And remember, the box breathing is something that is often, any of these breathing techniques are often recommended for those who suffer from COPD and asthma, but you should check with your doctor. Just check in with your doctor and say, hey, I want to try this. What do you think? Or your respiratory therapist, whatever the case is, before you get started, in case they have any specific tips or a specific technique they want you to use. Okay. So that's what I'm challenging you to do this next week. In NAMI, when we teach the diaphragmatic breathing, the recommendation is to do it every time you go through a doorway, because you really can't do the right breathing too much, right? So the recommendation there is to practice the diaphragmatic breathing every time you go through a doorway. That is fantastic. You can try that too. Just a thought. But I challenge you to pick a breathing technique. Like I said, I'm going to drop the links in the comments. I challenge you to pick a technique and practice it over the next week. Let me know how you do. Let us know how you do. Drop comments, send message, whatever. So just some last things to remember as I wrap up here. Always check your light battery before you go live. Rethink how you react the next time someone says breathe. So the next time somebody tells you to breathe, they're not just telling you to calm down. They may actually know something, and they may be reminding you of how to calm down. There is real science behind breathing and breath work. And it is a lot of times, like when we're really stressed out, a lot of times that breath is the most immediate thing that we can resort to in a stressful situation, okay? And nobody else has to know we're doing it. So, again, the next time someone says breathe when you're wound up, remember that they may be reminding you of how to do it, not just telling you to do it. So breathing is the best stress reduction tool, and you always have it with you. As I said, it's free. You always have it with you, and you can do it without anybody else knowing it once you've practiced a little bit and learned how to do those exhales. And you don't need fancy meditation or fancy pillows to do it. The breathing, that's where I really started to put the breath work into practice, was when I started meditating, because it does help to kind of clear the mind and settle the body down for that meditation. Remember, you don't have to be calm to meditate. The point of meditation is to help calm you. So if you're like, I can't do it, I can't breathe like that, I can't, start practicing. I promise you'll get better at it, okay? So, and again, on that note, the more you practice, the more you practice proper breathing technique, the more natural it becomes, okay? And then you find you're using the proper technique much more often or all the time versus only when you think about it. I promise. I find myself subconsciously doing it when I'm running to help support my core, the more Pilates breathing. Again, like I said, when I'm lifting weights, because I can feel it. If I forget myself and I feel like my lower back is straining, that means I'm not activating my core. And I do that cyclical sigh as well. So I'm going to drop some comments, some stuff in the comments for you. Let me know what breathing technique you're going to try for the next week. And if you found this helpful, please share. And again, reminder, check your allergy meds. Make sure none of them are expired. If they are expired, replace them. And especially if they're expired by like 2 years. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you have a fabulous day. I warned you I had 2 cups of coffee this morning. I hope you have a fabulous day. Let me know which breath work you're going to choose to practice over the next week. And if you found this helpful, share. In the meantime, I will see you next Wednesday. Be well. Bye.